Hi everyone, my name is Mariardi Widanarta with student number 240-553-1081. In this video, I will explain about chapter 4 of book Manufacturing, Engineering and Technology with title Metal Alloys, Their Structure and Strengthening by Heat Treatment. First, we have the introduction. The properties and behavior of metals and alloys during manufacturing and their performance during their service life depend on their composition, structure, and processing history as well as on the heat treatment to which they have been subjected. Important properties such as strength, hardness, ductility, toughness, and resistance to wear are greatly influenced by alloying elements and heat treatment process. In this video, I also explain about metal properties depend on composition and microstructure. Heat treatment improve strength, hardness, ductility, and toughness. Microstructure change through controlled heating and cooling, widely applied in manufacturing, automotive, aerospace, and tooling. The first example is drill bits are heat treated to stay sharp and resist wear. Next is the structure of alloys. These metals are known as pure metals, even though they may not be completely pure. Commercially pure metals are used for various purposes: aluminium for foil, copper for electrical conductors, nickel or chromium for cladding, and gold for electrical contacts. Alloys are mixtures of metals or metal non-metal to enhance properties. Solid solutions, substitutional and interstitial. Intermetallic compounds form strong, hard base, allowing control strength, corrosion resistance, and hardness. Commercially pure metals are used for various purposes, and the example is jewelry gold alloy, which is aurum and cuprum, is harder and more durable than pure gold. First is solid solution. Two terms are essential in describing alloys: solute and solvent. Substitutional solid solutions. Two conditions known as Hume-Rothery rules after W. Hume-Rothery in 1899 and until 1968 are generally required to form complete substitutional solid solutions. The two metals must have similar crystal structures, and the difference in their atomic radius should be less than 15%. Next is the interstitial solid solution. There are two conditions necessary for forming interstitial solution. First is the solvent atom must have more than one valence electron. Second, the atomic radius of the solid atom must be less than 59% of the atomic radius for the solvent atom. Next is intermetallic compound. Intermetallic compounds are complex structures consisting of two metals in which solid atoms are present among solvent atoms in certain proportions. Some intermetallic compounds have solid solubility, and the type of atomic bond may range from metallic to ionic. Next is two-phase systems. A typical example of a two-phase system in metals occurs when lead is added to copper in the molten state. After the mixture solidifies and the structure consists of two phases. First is one having a small amount of lead in solid solution in copper. The other having lead particles, roughly spherical in shape, dispersed throughout the structures in figure 4.3a. The lead particles are analogous to the sand particles in water described above. This copper-lead alloy has properties that are different from those of either copper or lead alone. As you can see in figure 4.3a, there are schematic illustration of grain boundaries and particles dispersed throughout the structure of a two-phase system, such as a lead copper alloy. And the grains represent lead in solid solutions in copper, and the particles are lead as a second phase. And the figure 4.3b, schematic illustration of a two-phase system consisting of two sets of grains, dark and light. The green and white grains have separate composition and properties. Next is phase diagram. Pure metals have clearly defined melting of freezing point, and solidification takes place at a constant temperature. When the temperature of a molten metal is reduced to the freezing point, the energy of the latent heat of solidification is given off while the temperature remains constant. Eventually, solidification is complete and the solid metal continues cooling to ambient or room temperature. Phase diagrams shows phase based on composition and temperature. Liquidus line is start of solidification, and solidus line is end of solidification. Used to predict alloy microstructures after cooling. The daily example is solder on electronic circuit solidifies gradually based on its phase diagram. As you can see the phase diagrams in figure 4.4a, there are cooling curves for the solidification of pure metals. Note that freezing takes place at a constant temperature. During freezing, the latent heat of solidification is given off, and in point B, change in density during cooling of pure metals. Next, we have in phase diagram in figure 4.5, there are phase diagram for nickel and copper alloy system obtained at a slow rate of solidification. Note that Note that pure nickel and pure copper each have one freezing or melting temperature. The top circle on the right depicts the nucleation of crystals. The second circle shows the formation of dendrites, and the bottom circle shows the solidified alloy with grain boundaries. As you can see in figure 4.6, there are mechanical properties of copper, nickel, and copper zinc. Nickel and copper zinc alloys as a function of their composition. The curves for zinc are short because zinc has a maximum solid solubility of 40% in copper. And in figure 4.7, there are the lead-tin phase diagram. Note that the composition of the eutectic point for this alloy is 61.9% Sn until 38.1% Pb. A composition either lower or higher than this ratio will have a higher liquidus temperature. Next, we have the iron-carbon system. Steels and cast irons are represented by the iron-carbon binary system. Commercially pure iron contains up to 0.008% carbon, and steels up to 2.11% carbon, and cast irons up to 6.67% carbon. Although most cast irons contains less than 4.5% carbon. And in this section, the iron-carbon system is described, including the techniques employed to evaluate the modify the properties of these important materials for specific applications. The most important alloy system for steels and cast irons. The key ways is ferrite, that is soft, austenite, ductile, cemented hard, and perlite is lamellar mix. Carbon content controls hardness and strength. And in daily example is construction steel gains toughness from ferrite perlite microstructure. As you can see in figure 4.8, there are the iron carbide phase diagram because of the importance of steel as an engineering material. This diagram is one of the most important of all phase diagrams. First is ferrite. Alpha ferrite, also denote a ferrite core, or simply ferrite, is a solid solution of body-centered cubic iron. It has a maximum solid solubility of 0.022% carbon at a temperature of 727 degrees Celsius. Austenite, as shown in figure 4.8, within a certain temperature range, iron undergoes a polymorphic transformation for a BCC to an FCC structure, becoming gamma iron or G iron, or more commonly austenite, after W.R. Austin in 1843 until 1902. Next is cemented. The right boundary of figure 4.8 represents cemented, which is 100% iron carbide, or Fe3C, having a carbon content of 6.67%. Cemented, from the Latin cementum, meaning stone chips, is also called carbide. In figure 4.9, there are the unit cells for austenite, ferrite, and martensite. The effect of percentage of carbon by weight on the lattice dimensions for martensite is shown in point D. Note the interstitial position of the carbon atoms. Note also the increase in dimension C with increasing carbon content. This effect caused the unit cell of martensite to be in the shape of rectangular prism. Next is the iron carbide phase diagram and the development of microstructures in steels. The region of the iron carbide phase diagrams that is significant for steels is shown in figure 4.10, which is an enlargement of the lower left-hand portion of figure 4.8. Various microstructures can be developed depending on the carbon content, the amount of plastic deformation, working, and the method of heat treatment. For example, let's consider the eutectic point of iron with a 0.77% carbon content while it is being cooled very slowly from a temperature of, let's we say, 1100 degrees Celsius, that is means 200 degrees Fahrenheit. In the austenite phase, slow cooling is for perlite, its balance, strength, and ductility. Medium cooling is bainite, that is stronger than perlite. Fast cooling for quenching is for martensite, hard but brittle. Tempering reduce brittleness of martensite and increase toughness. Spheroidite improves ductility for machining. Cooling rate strongly controls final properties. The example is kitchen knives are quenched for hardness, then tempered to avoid breakage. As you can see in figure 4.10, there are schematic illustration of the microstructures for an iron-carbon alloy of eutectoid composition. Above and below the eutectoid temperatures of 727 degrees Celsius. And the figure 4.11, there are macrostructures of perlite in 1080 steel, formed from austenite of eutectoid composition. In this lamellar structure, the lighter regions are ferrite and the darker regions are carbide. Magnification 2500 times. Next is the effects of alloying elements and iron. Carbon is the base element that transforms iron into steel, but other alloying elements are added to give additional desirable properties. Alloying elements affect the iron-iron carbide phase diagram, especially by shifting, like eutectoid temperatures, eutectoid compositions like carbon percents at eutectoid points, and other phase boundaries. Effect on eutectoid temperature is it can be raised or lowered, depending on the alloying element. The effect on eutectoid compositions, there are alloying elements always decrease the eutectoid carbon composition. If eutectoid temperature decrease, austenite range expands. Alloy elements that lower the eutectoid temperature are called austenite formers. Nickel has FCC structures, stabilized austenite, FCC austenite former. Chromium and molybdenum have BCC structures, stabilized ferrite and ferrite stabilizer. Next is cast iron. The equilibrium phase diagram relevant to cast irons is shown in figure 4.11, in which the right boundary is 100% carbon, that is pure graphite. The eutectic temperature is 1154 degrees Celsius. Those cast irons are completely liquid at temperatures lower than those required for liquid steel. Consensually, iron with high carbon content can be cast at lower temperatures than can steel. The types is gray, white, ductile or nodular, malleable, and compacted graphite iron or CGI. Graphite shape controls strength and brittleness. Gray iron, good damping and machinability. Ductile iron, higher strength used in automotive parts. The example is engine blocks use gray cast iron to reduce vibration and noise. Next, we have figure 4.12. There are phase diagrams for the iron-carbon system with graphite. as the stable phase, note that this figure is an extended version of figure 4.8. There. Next we have figure 4.13, microstructures for cast irons with magnification 100 times. In point A we have ferritic gray iron with graphite flakes. In point B we have ferritic ductile iron with graphite in nodular form, and in point C we have ferritic malleable iron. This cast iron solidified as white cast iron with the carbon present as cemented and was heat treated by to graphitize the carbon. Next we have ductile or nodular iron. Ductile or nodular iron. In the ductile iron structure, graphite is a nodular or spheroid form. This shape permits the material to be somewhat ductile and shock resistant. Next is white cast iron. White cast iron is the white cast that have structure hard, wear resistant and brittle because of the presence of large amounts of iron carbide. Next we have malleable iron. Malleable iron is obtained by annealing white cast iron in an atmosphere of carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide at between 800 degrees and 900 degrees Celsius for up to several hours, depending on the size of the part. And the last is compacted graphite iron. The graphite in this structure is in the form of short, thick, interconnected flakes having undulating surface and rounded extremities. Next we have heat treatment of ferrous alloys. The various microstructures described thus far can be modified by heat treatment techniques, that is, by controlled heating and cooling of the alloys at various rates. Heat treatment modifies microstructures to achieve desired properties. Main process is hardening, tempering, normalizing, and annealing. Hardening or quenching, there is the highest hardness but lowest ductility. Tempering improves toughness after quenching. Normalizing refines grain for uniform properties. Annealing is softens metal for machining. Sorry, we start again. The example is springs are heat treated for elasticity and fatigue resistance. There are 6 points. There is heat treatment of various alloys. First, we have perlite. Perlite, if the ferrite and cemented in the perlite structures of the eutectoid steel shown in figure 4.11 are thin and closely packed, the microstructure is called fine perlite. If they are thick and widely spaced, it is called coarse perlite. Then spheroidate. Spheroidate, when perlite is heated to just below the eutectoid temperature and then held at the temperature of for a period of time, such as for a day at 700 degrees Celsius. The cemented lamellay transformed to roughly spherical shapes. Next we have bainite. Bainite, visible only through electron microscopy. Bainite is a very fine microstructure consisting of ferrite and cemented, similar to perlite but having a different morphology. Then martensite. Martensite is when the austenite is cooled at a high rate, such as by quenching it in water, its FCC structure is transformed into a body-centered tetragonal structure. Next is retained austenite. If the temperature to which the alloy is quenched is not sufficiently low, only a portion of the structure is transformed to martensite. Tempered martensite. Martensite is tempered in order to improve its mechanical properties. Tempering is a heating process by which hardness is reduced and toughness is improved. As you can see in figure 4.14, there are microstructure of eutectoid steel, and in figure 4.15 there are hardness of martensite as a function of carbon content and micrograph of martensite containing 0.8% carbon, and figure 4.16 there is hardness of tempered martensite as a function of tempering time for 1080 steel quenched to 65 HRC. And this is time temperature transformation diagram. Next, we have hardenability of ferrous alloys. The capability of an alloy to be hardened by heat treatment is called the hardenability. In this commonly used Gemini test, a round test bar 100 millimeters long, made from the particular alloy, is austenitized, that is heated to the proper temperature to form 100% austenite. It is then quenched directly at one end with a stream of water at 24 degrees Celsius. The cooling rate just varies throughout the length of the bar, the rate being highest at the lower end, which is in direct contact with the water. The fluid used for quenching the heated alloy also has an effect of hardenability. Quenching may be carried out in water, brine or salt water, oils, molten salts, or air. Caustic solutions, polymer solutions, and gas are also used. Hardenability is ability to form martensite to deeper sections. Depends on alloy composition and cooling rate. Measured by Gemini and quench test, and high hardenability steels are ideal for thick parts. The daily example is gear teeth require deep hardness to resist wear in surface. In figure 4.19, there are mechanical properties of annealed steels as a function of compositions and microstructure. In figure 4.20, there are quench test and cooling rate hardenability curves for 5 different steels as obtained from the quench test. Next, we have heat treatment of non-ferrous alloys and stainless steel. In solution treatment, the alloy is heated to within the solid solution, kappa phase state, with 540 degrees Celsius, and then cooled rapidly. For instance, by quenching it in water, the structures obtained in figure 4.21b can be made stronger by precipitation hardening. In this process, the alloy is reheated to an intermediate temperature and then held there for a period of time during which precipitation takes place. Non-ferrous alloys don't form martensit, threatening mainly by solution treatment and precipitation hardening. Stainless steels for corrosion resistance due to chromium austenitic stainless steel cannot be hardened by heat and used in chemical, food, and medical applications. Our daily example is airplane skin use precipitation hardened aluminum for high strength and low weight. As you can see in figure 4.21, there are phase diagram for the aluminum copper alloy system, and in point B, various microstructures obtained during the edge hardening process. And in figure 4.22, the effect of aging time and temperature on the yield stress of 2014 T4 aluminum alloy. Next is the case hardening. Typical application for case hardening are gear teeth, cams, shafts, bearings, fasteners, pins, automotive clutch plates, tools, and dies. The case example of case hardening, there are carburizing, which is gas, liquid, and packed carburizing, carbonitriding, cyaniding, nitriding, boronizing, flame hardening, induction hardening, and laser beam hardening. As you can see in table 4.1, there are outline of heat treatment process for surface hardening. There are carburizing, carbonitriding, cyaniding, nitriding, boronizing, flame hardening, and induction hardening. Next is annealing. The annealing process consists of the following steps. First, heating the workpiece to a specific range of temperature in a furnace, holding it at the temperature for a period of time, soaking, and third is cooling the workpiece in air or in a furnace. Softened metals increase ductility and relieve stress, improves machinability and refine grades. Full annealing, process annealing, and stress relief annealing. For example, is copper tubes are annealed so technicians can bend them easily. In figure 4.23, there are heat treating temperature range for plain carbon steels. And figure 4.24, there is hardness of steels in the quench and normalized condition as a function of carbon content. These are the process of annealing. First is process annealing, stress relief annealing, tempering, tempering, mark tempering or mark quenching, and forming. Next is heat treating furnace and equipment. Batch furnace are of the following basic types: A box furnace, a pit furnace, a bell furnace, and in an elevator furnace, continuous furnace, salt bed furnace, and fluidized beds. As you can see in figure 4.26, there is the types of coils used in induction heating of various surface of parts. Next is design considerations for heat treating. There are sharp corners is for stress concentration and risk of cracking. Uniform thickness minimize distortion and proper quenching method reduce residual stress. The example is crankshaft designed with smooth fillets to avoid quench cracks. Well, that's all from me. Thank you for watching and goodbye.